Yo, what's up, everybody? Trevor Noah here, and listen up because today we're diving deep into a story that's close to my heart, a story that's been twisted and turned, but one that deserves to be told right. It's a story that has been overshadowed by misconceptions and stereotypes for far too long. We're talking about Africa, but not the Africa you see on the news with all the sad music and the flies. No, we're talking about the Africa that was vibrant, thriving, and full of life. We're going way back. Before the Europeans decided to discover a place that was already bursting with life, culture and innovation. A place where communities lived in harmony with nature and each other. Forget what you think you know about Africa. Forget the single story that's been fed to you. We're about to embark on a journey through time. A time when Africa was home to majestic empires, brilliant scholars and intricate trade routes that spanned the continent. These were civilizations that contributed immensely to the world in terms of knowledge, culture, and trade. This is a story of resilience, of beauty, of a continent that was the cradle of civilization itself, a place where humanity began and flourished. We're talking about a place where kingdoms rose and fell, where ancient cities rivaled the greatest in the world, cities that were centers of learning, commerce, and culture. This is a story that needs to be told, a story that's been buried under centuries of misinformation and prejudice. It's time to set the record straight and celebrate the true history of Africa. So, buckle up, because we're about to uncover the real Africa, a continent of majesty and wonder, a place that has so much more to offer than what we've been led to believe. Let's dive in and explore the rich tapestry of Africa's past, its people, and its enduring legacy. Now, let's talk about the good stuff, the empires, the kingdoms, the civilizations that made Africa the vibrant tapestry it was. This continent was a cradle of human civilization, brimming with stories of grandeur and innovation. We're talking about places like Great Zimbabwe, with its towering stone walls that defied architectural norms. These structures were not just buildings, they were symbols of power and ingenuity, standing tall against the test of time. We're talking about the Mali Empire, where Mansa Musa, the richest man to ever live, ruled with opulence and spread knowledge like wildfire. His pilgrimage to Mecca is legendary, showcasing the wealth and cultural richness of his empire. Don't forget the Songhai Empire, a center of learning and trade that stretched across West Africa. This empire was a beacon of education, with the famous University of Sankore in Timbuktu attracting scholars from all over the world. And let's not forget the Swahili coast, a melting pot of cultures where Arabic, Indian and African traditions fused to create something truly unique. The bustling trade ports were gateways to the world, facilitating the exchange of goods, ideas and cultures. From the bustling cities of North Africa, with their intricate architecture and vibrant markets, to the kingdoms of the southern savannas, Africa was a continent of diversity and innovation. Each region contributed its own unique flavor to the rich tapestry of African civilization. These weren't just tribes living in huts, my friends. These were sophisticated societies with complex systems of governance, trade, and culture. They had intricate social structures, advanced technologies, and rich traditions that have left an indelible mark on history. Now, let's talk trade, baby. Africa wasn't just sitting there waiting for the world to discover it. No, sir. This was a continent at the heart of global trade networks. We're talking about the trans-Saharan trade routes, where caravans laden with gold, salt, ivory and spices traversed the Sahara Desert, connecting North Africa to the rest of the continent. Think about it, these journeys were no walk in the park. But the rewards were great, bringing wealth and knowledge to all corners of Africa. This was globalization, African style. These trade routes weren't just about goods, they were about the exchange of ideas, languages and religions. They were the arteries of a continent that was connected to the world long before European ships arrived on its shores. Okay, let's talk about the Europeans. Now, I'm not saying they invented bad vibes, but they definitely perfected them. It all started innocently enough, with explorers like Vasco da Gama sailing around the Cape of Good Hope, looking for a new route to India. They were like, oh look, a whole continent we didn't even know was there, let's discover it. But here's the thing. Africa wasn't lost. It didn't need finding. These explorers, with their fancy ships and their thirst for adventure, stumbled upon a continent that was already thriving, but instead of seeing it for what it was, a land of opportunity and partnership, they saw it as something to be conquered and controlled. Section 5, the scramble begins. Early European encroachment in Africa. So the Europeans, they get a taste of Africa's riches, and suddenly it's a free-for-all. They start setting up trading posts along the coast, muscling their way into existing trade networks. The slave trade, that horrific chapter in human history, was already underway, but now it explodes, fueled by European demand for cheap labor in the Americas. Millions of Africans were ripped from their homes, their families torn apart, all in the name of profit. This wasn't just trade anymore, this was exploitation on a massive scale. And it set the stage for what was to come, the carving up of an entire continent. Section 6, to divide a continent, the Berlin Conference and its sinister logic. Now let's talk about the Berlin Conference. Imagine this. A bunch of dudes, all European, sitting around a table in Berlin, carving up a continent that wasn't theirs to divide. No African leaders were invited to this little get-together. It was like deciding who gets to eat the last slice of pizza, without asking the person who bought the pizza. They took a map of Africa, drew some lines on it, and boom, they divided up the continent amongst themselves, with no regard for existing borders, cultures, or the people who actually lived there. It was colonialism at its most blatant. A land grab disguised as a diplomatic conference. Section 7, drawing lines in the sand. The partition of Africa and its immediate aftermath. The ink on the Berlin Conference Agreement was barely dry, and the scramble for Africa was on. European powers, fueled by greed and this misguided sense of superiority, raced to claim their piece of the continent. They sent their armies, their explorers, their missionaries, all with the goal of subjugating and controlling the African people. Imagine the chaos, the confusion, the anger, as these arbitrary borders were imposed on people who had lived for centuries with their own systems of governance and social structures. It was a recipe for disaster, and disaster is exactly what followed. Section 8, the iron fist of colonial rule. Exploitation and resistance in the heart of Africa. Colonial rule was brutal, my friends. African resources, gold, diamonds, rubber, you name it, were plundered to fuel European industries. Africans were forced into labor, their traditional ways of life disrupted, their cultures suppressed. But here's the thing about Africans. We're resilient. We don't just roll over and accept injustice. Across the continent, resistance movements sprung up led by visionary leaders who refused to be subjugated. From the Ashanti Kingdom in West Africa to the Maji Rebellion in East Africa, Africans fought back against their oppressors, often paying the ultimate price for their freedom. Section 9. Scars on the land, the enduring legacy of the scramble for Africa. The Berlin Conference and the scramble for Africa that followed left deep scars on the continent, scars that are still felt today. The arbitrary borders drawn by European powers created artificial divisions, fueling ethnic tensions and conflicts that continue to plague many African nations. The economic exploitation of the colonial era left many African countries impoverished, their resources depleted, their economies structured to serve their former colonizers. The legacy of colonialism is a heavy burden to bear, a constant reminder of a past that continues to shape the present. Section 10, reclaiming the narrative, celebrating Africa's past, present and future. But here's the thing about Africa. We're not defined by our past. Our history is rich and complex, filled with both triumphs and tribulations. The Berlin Conference was a tragedy, a dark chapter in our history, but it doesn't define us. It was a moment of great injustice, yet it also sparked a spirit of resistance and unity among our people. We're a continent of resilience, of innovation, of creativity. Our artisans craft beauty from raw materials, and our tech startups are leading the way in global innovation. We're the cradle of humanity, the birthplace of civilization. Our lands hold the secrets of ancient empires and the origins of humankind. And we're rising, my friends. With every sunrise, a new chapter begins, filled with hope and potential. We're reclaiming our narrative, telling our own stories, celebrating our rich heritage. Our festivals and traditions are a testament to our enduring spirit and vibrant culture. We're building a new Africa, an Africa that's prosperous, peaceful and united. Our cities are growing and our communities are coming together to create a brighter future. So, the next time you think of Africa, remember this. We are not a continent defined by poverty, war, or colonialism. We are a continent of potential, of growth, and of endless possibilities. We are a continent of kings and queens, of empires and innovation, of resilience and hope. Our dances and music echo the stories of our ancestors and the dreams of our future. We are Africa, and our story is just beginning. Stay tuned, world. The best is yet to come. The best